Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We were given this suggestion, so we're seeing things obviously through the eyes of a developer or a home builder depending on the project or the product. But one of the things we're going to do is we're going to walk through another project. This is a single family house, and point out some of the things that we like about it, some of the things that maybe we have some constructive criticism about. So why don't we just jump right in? If you'll notice, so the first thing that draws my attention is the exterior elevations. So when you look at, and now let me play this here for a minute. When you look at this front facade right here, this beginning image, the first thing that jumps out to me is the exterior elevations. The amount of windows and natural light that gets brought in, the different types of building materials that they're using on the exterior facade, the fence, the landscaping, all of that stuff plays in. The hardscape and the pavers toward the front door, the water feature that is in the front yard here for some white noise, some ambient white noise. I think that's always great. And I think they've done a really thorough job. Let me say this, just at first glance, the architect obviously did a very thorough job. There's a lot of flat roofs. There's a lot of changes in the roof condition where the reflected ceiling plan I'm sure has that written in. But a couple of the comments that I wanted to make on the exterior before we move into the interior is just that I do appreciate the level of attention to detail that they have on this exterior. As you'll notice here in this image, there's wall caps on tops of these small block walls. I don't really like the ledger stone look here or this tile. This looks like the travertine. Although I think to each their own. I'll just say that. On the backyard, sort of a similar dynamic exists in that I feel like their landscape plans were pretty thorough. As you'll notice here, they have several water features, they have a spa. So I think they did a pretty good job. Also, they partitioned this off here, so there looks like a few feet of wood decking around the tile. It's a little interesting. Let me see what else we have here in the backyard.
In the mountain.
Also one of the things I really like is if you'll notice this overhang here, the posts that hold up this exterior structure that shields this outdoor space. Obviously they put a lot of attention to the millwork on these exterior posts here, as well as having skylights. And I think they did a pretty thorough job. As you can see, there's also a speaker. Looks like they have a couple of heat lamps. So they're definitely doing this to the best of their ability. I can assure you of that. Let me see. Let's move into the inside because this is really where I want to spend the majority of my time. So if you look in the inside, so their front door is enormous. Huge statement piece. Kudos to them. I don't really like sort of the modern contemporary industrial feel that this door has. So from the specific spec, not really a huge fan. Having said that, with a rough opening in framing that allows for a door of this size at the front entrance, I think is definitely a plus. Barn door here in the back, also kind of going out of style, but I can appreciate the fact that they were trying to do something unique here. The staircase, the wine racks, these are the next two things that I'll talk about. The staircase, having it cantilevered where it's structured steel at foundation and during rough framing, instead of having it framed out with wood. Obviously, it's more expensive. It also looks phenomenal. I think that the glass railings, also a great touch. And the wine racks sort of separate the space from the dining room, living room area to the hallway in between. It's a very good use of space. I also think it's very creative. As somebody who's obsessed with residential real estate, I don't see this very much. So two pillars where there's visible wine glasses from all four sides. I just think that that's a design element that may not have cost a whole lot of money, but I think when buyers walk in to potentially purchase this home, I think that they would definitely be wowed by that. I think that that would be a wow factor that didn't cost a lot of money. And anytime you find yourself as a home builder or developer, anytime you can tell yourself this isn't going to cost a lot and it's going to add a lot of value, those are definitely the types of strategies that you want to continue to implement. So as we go into the kitchen here, you'll notice that they have these edge pulls. So these are the cabinet pulls that open these doors. They're keeping up with the modern aesthetic, you know, rather than the pulls where it comes off of the face of the door. I think it's continuing to stay commensurate with what the overall theme is of the residence. The large array of ceiling pendants that hang from, looks like a cantilevered kind of panel. I think it's just great. I think they've done a great job. I don't know that I'm a big fan of the staging. However, it is just not an aesthetic that I think you find in Southern California. I'm assuming this is more in a bit of a rural, or, you know, maybe like a Washington or Oregon. You know, there's a lot of times the geographical location should have an impact in the way that it's designed and the way that it looks aesthetically, especially when you have the enormous amount of, you know, pine trees in the background. It offers a different aesthetic than our urban SoCal, coastal kind of farmhouse, a lot of white, a lot of black, a lot of gray, and obviously, as you see in this, they don't have quite as much of those color palettes. And if you'll notice the fireplace here, so this sort of mirror look. Hold on, I'm having a second of technical difficulties. This mirror look to the fireplace, also not really my aesthetic personally. However, I think, you know, maybe if you were in Hollywood, if you were up in the hills, I think that would Calabasas. I think as far as Southern California is concerned, I think that would warrant an application with materials such as this. I think along the coast, it wouldn't necessarily be something we would use. And then if you look at, let me keep going through these slides here. The transom windows at the top. So as you'll notice, this ceiling right here that the cursor is running along, it does cantilever out in front. I think that offers a little bit of shade protection. Also just sort of gives an elevation change on the interior. And there's again that panel where the ceiling pendants are hanging from. These transom windows up above, it offers two benefits. For me, one of the main benefits that I said at the very beginning of this is it offers an extra sort of curb appeal, exterior front elevation aesthetic that shows just a big array of windows, and it just has that sort of grand feel. In the inside, the latter point that I think transom windows really provide value is it obviously lets in a whole lot of natural light. And so I definitely give them respect for that. And as we go through the rest of the home, let's see what else we have here. There's just a minute of a delay. I think the vanity is a little, this bathroom's a little generic. But again, you know, we don't know the inner workings of what put this deal together. What I mean by that in another way is that I think that there's oftentimes compromises with the elevation or the level of finishes that are put into a home. For example, not using all the most expensive fixtures or materials. This will keep the cost down and you can still get a relatively high exit for it. So it really just depends on whether this is for an end user or if this is a spec deal or speculation where the builder or developer had gone in there and is hoping to earn a profit by building it themselves and selling it for more than they put in. So I always want to be mindful of that. These chandeliers are gigantic. They're probably extremely expensive. My hunch is, you know, either they bought this and this is for an end user or they rented it. I mean, you can do a whole lot of things to make it cost effective. That would be the only thing that I would weave through this conversation is if I'm ever saying that they may have skimped a little bit on finishes, I actually don't always think that that's a bad thing. Again, just to reiterate it in a different way, is if they're really, really cost sensitive and cost conscious, they hopefully will be able to earn, if this is a spec deal, hopefully be able to earn a lot more than all of the fanciest finishes in which they would theoretically break even, but I wouldn't have any constructive criticism if that makes sense. Next, we have the master. It just takes a second for this to load.
You can start tying it up. Like maybe pick out one more thing.
I really like the way that this panel is done on this in the master. So this is like a sitting room adjacent to the master. As we wrap this up, again, some of the major points that I addressed are, of course, when you show up, or whether it's in person or whether it's on a video here, first things you're gonna notice are the elevation plans. I keep using that term. That is the way that the house looks from the exterior. Think of it like a rendering, but in real life. Those then become elevations. The elevations or the curb appeal of this property is pretty grand. The amount of windows and natural light that's let in is also phenomenal. I think that the amount of elevation changes from the outside, all the roofs at different heights, those little eyebrows that pop around, I think that that makes it more dynamic rather than it looking like a box. I think on the inside, they definitely went really modern contemporary, which isn't necessarily my aesthetic. However, I do think that they did a really good job, and I think that the architect is probably pretty well known. That's my take on the elevation specifically. Hope you found that valuable. Again, just through the eyes of a builder or developer, it's always interesting when we're looking in our own field at other projects from other firms. It's nice to kind of see and give our 2 cents on it. So we're gonna leave this link in the description below, and so you can check out their channel and this house specifically. If this is something that you like, hopefully you found value in it. If you want us to sort of give our opinions on a lot of these other projects, let us know. You know, we definitely could do more of it.